So tonight it is Kurt Witcher, who is the manager of the Genealogy Center and director of special collections, and Elizabeth Hodges, senior librarian here. And you're stuck with me. Sorry, guys. Hey, hi, guys. We are so happy you guys are able to join us.
We are all happy to be here.
It's awesome and a great topic and a timely topic as well. So absolutely. So, amongst us, we like to say that as we're trying to find our family stories, every generation, the possibility. And what we mean by that is literally from 2021 back to colonial time period, every generation here in North America, there was some military something. And there exists the possibility that if your family was here, they may have fought, contributed, aided, participated in some way in military activities. So a really important topic, really important subject for trying to find all of our family stories.
It really is. I'm so excited that this is what we're leading off with is a question that was actually submitted via email. And guys, if we have a fireside chat, please feel free to submit questions ahead of time. But this one was asking, where can they find records for Revolutionary War soldiers and GAR soldiers? So guys, let's get started.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to jump in just to make sure we're all on the same page. I bet everyone knows this, but you don't have to admit if you don't know this. GAR stands for Grand Army of the Republic, and it has to do with veterans who served on the Union side of the war between the states. So our participant is asking for Revolutionary War and then a Civil War veterans organization. So just a little prefatory there, Allison.
Thank you. That's really good to have. And I decided to bring up this page so people could see it. Sometimes, I don't know about you guys, but sometimes it's easier if I see it rather than hear it. So GAR, Grand Army of the Republic. And as you can see, this is just a family search website. So there's a lot of great information in here, and you're going to hear us referring to family search a lot. And specifically, we're going into the research wiki. If you are not familiar with the research wiki, this is the time to make it your best friend. There's so much in here, and they give you links to different specific record sets. In the chat, there's actually somebody, or in the Q&A, somebody's specifically asking about Pennsylvania. Well, here you go, Pennsylvania Grand Army of the Republic membership records. It's right there. It's a link. I can click on it, and it takes us straight into the record set. So make sure you're checking this website out. If you're not familiar with the research wiki, you go to search at familysearch.org, research wiki, and then you can search by a place or a topic, or you can click on the map and start clicking around. So for this specific topic, you could type in Grand Army of the Republic, or let's go with Revolutionary War, because that was the other question. So you get a lot of different things that pop up. I'm going to go to just the general Revolutionary War. So this is it by the dates, I can tell that. And once I click on that, it's going to give me kind of a history, which sometimes can be helpful if it's something new for you to research. And then as you scroll down, you start seeing those record sets again. And you can see different books that might be helpful. And the one thing you want to keep in mind is that family search will lead you to the records, whether they are paid or free. Right. So keep an eye out. If there's a $sign, it's taking you to a paid site. So watch, look and see what you're doing. If I hover over this, you guys should be able to see in the bottom left-hand corner. It's very small, but it gives me the web address, and it's telling me that it's going to familysearch.org /wiki/en for English /US military basic search strategies. So it'll tell you what website it is taking you to. That is a clue. I don't know if everybody's aware of that, So sorry if this is super basic, but I just want to make sure we are all on the same page.
Oh, that's an excellent point, Allison, and I'm going to follow up with also super basic. So again, don't be upset if this is like, oh, geez, Kurt, I knew this like forever ago. But one of the ways that you can leverage the power of the Family Search Wiki is through just what Allison demonstrated. And even if it's taking you to a pay site, maybe you have a subscription to MyHeritage or Find My Past or Ancestor, or any one of the large, what I call meta sites. I mean, they just have amazing billions upon billions of records. Sometimes we have difficulty finding exactly what's in MyHeritage, and using the wiki can kind of bring back to us, oh, I didn't know that was in MyHeritage or Ancestry. And I've got a great Revolutionary War example, just going back to our first question. If you are kind of an insomniac or you have difficulty sleeping some night and you have an Ancestry subscription, oh my goodness, for the Revolutionary War, the pension files and the service records are on Ancestry. So you can search those. There is a set that I think a lot of people have either forgotten about, never knew about, or are choosing to ignore it. And I understand that. BC, before computers, it was a monster to use. It was many hundreds of volumes. In fact, we called it the Green Monster because it was bound in olive green. But that's on Ancestry now. It's called the American Genealogical and Biographical Index. I know it's a mouthful, but in there, they have a lot of Revolutionary War publications. The small little Revolutionary War in Massachusetts, Revolutionary War families in Vermont, Revolutionary soldiers from Rhode Island. So there's just a lot of small publications that you can access or gain, I shouldn't say access, but gain knowledge of through Ancestry and their American Genealogical and Biographical Index. So if you're saying Revolutionary War and you have access to either your own subscription or at your local public library, there's a lot of Revolutionary War material in there. And then never forget the DAR Patriot Index as well, as I had a brain freeze earlier this evening and forgot the name of it. But
someone had actually brought up in the chat a really important point about they said that there's a great photo archive of GAR members in Defiance, Ohio. That really, and it's available at the local library there. That really brings home that go local, especially for groups like GAR. You know, there might see what was there and then start contacting libraries and historical societies because they might have records for that just aren't online.
Yeah,
always go local.
That's an excellent point, Elizabeth. And I know many of you will say, oh my gosh, Kurt's on this tangent again, but you know, WorldCat can be fun to explore as well, because a lot of this local material, Elizabeth, that you've just alluded to could be part of WorldCat, as they have 10,000 library catalogs all in one spot and literally billions of records. So yeah, that's a great point. People, communities are proud of their veterans. Oh my goodness. If you're in a community of an ancestor, go to the courthouse. See what kind of bronze plaques are there. See what kind of memorial plaques, granite memorials are there for all of their veterans. Many communities in their courthouse square will have the names of all the veterans from the earliest time in the community up to present day. So all kinds of ways of finding information.
Absolutely. So I've been just kind of reading through the Q&A while you and Allison were talking. The next question that I see is somebody saying that they discovered that their great uncle received a Mexican service medal and that they hadn't heard of that before. Where could I find additional information about this? So from my kind of just general Google search, Mexican service medal, or I think I might have actually searched Mexican American War service medals. This would have been issued, it had to do with service between 1911 and 1919. And it was issued by the War Department. Finding more information about that specifically, like why they would have gotten this medal, I would think, and you guys can correct me if I'm totally off base, I would think you would have to try to get their service record to see why they were given this. Am I completely off base on thinking that?
No, not totally off base at all. And I'm going to back up a half a step if no one minds. So love what you said, Elizabeth, because that's an effective strategy. Number one, I think, as all of us on the Genealogy Center team have said, Google is your friend. So Google. And what you said, Allison, I tried this and I tried that. I tried Mexican American, et cetera.
Yeah.
Use different terms. See what your search results are like. And certainly delving into the service record for a particular war may provide you with data that would say, that's why the medal was. But I believe that another avenue to find more about the medal and what qualified to receive that medal, was it just service? Was it exemplary service? Was it being wounded? Was it just for officers? Was it for everyone? Is to see
The Navy.
Yeah.
I'm reading as we're talking. Yeah.
And see if there's information on lineage societies websites. So the lineage society for that particular war. And I don't know of many wars pre-World War I that don't have lineage societies of one sort or another. So Googling a lineage society or seeing if you can find information about how to contact a lineage society, and then see what. Also, this is a real outlier thing, but I've given this advice to a number of our patrons over the years, and it seems like a long shot, but it really comes in handy, and that is military historian at the National Archives. They're amazing. If you email inquire@nara.gov, I know it really should be archive.gov, but that at nara.gov will still get it there. And sometimes archive.gov doesn't, but if you can find an email link to the National Archives, they're really smart. They're military historians, top shelf. Yeah.
I'm going to put a link to this in the chat for the person who asked about that specifically.
I asked that person what the name of the great uncle is, because I also found apparently there's a medal roll
for that war.
So it might be something that can be searched. I will also put that in the chat. There we go.
Okay, so let's see. What is next? How do I find out what kind of disability a Civil War veteran had and was discharged for?
It should be in the records.
Pension record.
Yeah.
Service record. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. You
Pension.
should. Yeah, pension. Yeah, you should be able to find it in a variety of places.
Even sometimes, and it really varies more than we would like, but sometimes for the war between the states, the state adjutant general reports, which increasingly are online. There's a robust collection online because they're either government publications or in public domain or both. And they may sometimes tell in there what a person was discharged for in the comments section.
Yeah.
Etc.
This isn't a question. Someone was just sharing in the Q&A. NARA in DC is now open again by appointment only, for those of you who might not have been aware that they're reopened. They've reopened.
One of the nice things though about email is they don't have to be open to answer their email. And
that is true.
Yeah.
So I'm noticing there's a couple things. World War One. Finding out where someone's stationed, finding more information about service. Where would one find that information? Well, it's not as easy, guys, but I mean that you guys probably already discovered that, which is why you're here asking that question. So many of you know that there was a fire at the National Archives in St. Louis where the personnel records were housed. And I believe it's 80% of Army records, and then a smaller percentage of Navy records were destroyed by the fire. Well,
Were destroyed.
yes, sorry, were destroyed. We'll leave it at that.
Yeah.
So government's great, guys.
Yes. Yeah.
Kind of like the 1890 census.
Yeah.
That does not mean if by chance your ancestor's record was destroyed, it does not mean it is a dead end. There are other records. It is still not 100% easy to get your hands on them. It's going to be a little bit easier now that NARA is opening up back up slowly, but you're probably going to have to start looking at National Archives records. There are other possibilities. Kurt, do you want to go into a few of those?
Well, thank you. Yeah, and I want to talk just a little bit about strategy. So you're exactly right, Allison. Spot on. So backing up again a half a step, when we hear, oh, there was a courthouse fire, and oh, the personnel record center in St. Louis, was a big fire and they were all destroyed. I mean, we could talk for half an hour on what really happened to the records. They all didn't burn up, but that's another day. Hardly ever is everything destroyed. So it's worth the effort to query the U.S. Personnel Record Center in St. Louis. They are part of the National Archives system. So you can go to archive.gov and you can find a number of different links to connect with them. Ask. For many, many years, they have had a program where they have asked veterans and veterans organizations whose records were destroyed to resubmit their copies of anything. Photographs, documents, etc. I know there have been several, what I'm going to call filters, where we don't accept that or we accept this. But a number of files, like not just dozens, but thousands, have been in the process of being, like, I call it rebuilt or refilled. So if you don't ask, you won't know. I know this is frustrating, but you can't be satisfied in asking only once. Let's just say life is life. Life happens. So you may query and someone may not read your query exactly right or be rushed or whatever. No fault, no blame. And they say, no, nothing's there. And maybe in 6 weeks, 6 months, you query again, different person answers it, and there's stuff. Another tip, which I know doesn't really make us smile ear to ear, but there are a number of really good professional genealogists, really good record researchers who live in the St. Louis area. And sometimes engaging them, yes, they're not going to do it for free. You may find a couple of random acts of kindness, people that might chum in on your reference. But if they can go in and tell you definitively, the archives staff at the Personnel Record Center know them, they know their stuff, that's more kind of a definitive answer that, yeah, there's something here and here, I'm able to make a copy for you, or no, the file's pretty empty, there's nothing here. So do a thorough job. With the 2 W's, cast your net wide just to make sure that you're getting every piece of information possible and that you're exploring those pieces of information for tips and clues that might lead you down another path. So the first thing that pops to my mind are the draft registration cards. And I know everyone says, well, but he volunteered, he wasn't drafted. Did you check? Because sometimes what we've heard, what we think we believe, ta-da, isn't reality. So check the records. It's quick, it's easy. Check the records. And if you say, yeah, I don't care about that stuff, it's not going to give me very much information. Check it anyway, just to make sure there isn't a name, a place, a date, a something, that place of employment, something that might say, oh, I need to look in this way. I can't say enough about free stuff. And it's boring stuff. So it's not like, a Netflix movie, or not like a really great, ancestry experience, but use bibliographic tools like I mentioned earlier, WorldCat, like Archive Grid, like NUTMUC. NUCMC stands for National Union Catalog of Manuscript Collections. Search under a battalion, a unit, even why not search under the veteran's name? Small chance, but that's a box you can check. Yep, did that, nothing. Every once in a while, one is surprised about what one finds. So also try the Veterans Administration, the VA's website. You'll be surprised what you'll find there. So off the top of my head, Allison, that's kind of what I'm thinking as far as how do I wrap my arms around World War I information, and World War II for that matter.
I shared a couple links as well. So this is one that I think is kind of cool. It's the National World War I Museum and Memorial. Not only do they have general resources, but they have by state. So you can see by state what they might have. So make sure that you're checking things like this out. Most states have, and even smaller communities have some sort of war memorials and war museums. And then you have national ones for specific wars. Utilize them. These are people who are experts on military and possibly specific wars and where the records live. Sometimes it's not what you know, but who you know. So make friends with people who know things. That'll really make your search a little easier. There's a book sitting behind me. I'm going to pull this out. This one's for World War II, but it's museums, memorials, and historic displays. There's an entire book on how to find these in every state. It's for World War II. So make sure that you're checking locally where your family member has lived to find that information.
Yeah.
And then family search.
Super advice, Allison, and just to put maybe a sprinkle on top of that nice icing there, explore federal repositories. So 9/11 forever changed the face of Carlisle Barracks, the Military History Institute, I believe it's called, but in Carlisle Barracks, Pennsylvania, they really locked that place down. That's where they teach our brave men and women how to be good soldiers and good strategy and military strategies. But their library, it's really locked down, but they have a catalog online. You can begin to search, see what's available. Once you grab onto a title, maybe it's held by some other repository, academic institution, etc. So, leverage knowledge of the federal government and who all would serve veterans, who all would serve World War I, World War II veterans.
Kurt, a couple of people have asked, you mentioned that government officials are looking for information from veterans. A couple of people have wondered how they would send information in that they might have.
What a great question. And I probably don't have the answer you're looking for, but it'll get you doing something that I think if we're interested in military history, we should do on a regular basis. Go to the web, go Google U.S. Military Personnel Records Center. It's a pretty robust website. And I believe somewhere on that website, they will tell you how to submit, maybe even what specifically they're looking for. That changes with different people in charge, different, etc. But I would go to that website and explore that website for how you can submit information.
Kurt, I feel like this is a brilliant time to also share this, and I will let you talk about what that is.
Yes. It is a great time for that. And how to start a discussion about this. So a number of years ago, seems like forever ago now, but it really isn't that long ago, the Genealogy Center here in Fort Wayne really wanted to be, and I don't say that the term loosely or lightly, but we wanted to be a final resting place for abandoned military information. So we're not competing with Family Search. Why would one do that? We're not competing with Ancestry, but literally from colonial wars up to Afghanistan, Desert Storm, we have collected and preserved digitally and presented for free records that people have shared with us. It can be a pension file, it can be personal records of a particular individual, both my father and my father-in-law. I have military records from both of them. So I put them up on the site because it's a great way to preserve them. We have many, many, many service and pension files for various wars up, a lot of photographs. We've done silly things like for the Spanish-American War, we digitized a poster and then keyed all the names off the bottom of the poster and then mapped them to where the person was on the poster. So you could actually see a close-up if that was your person. So our military heritage, we try to fancy ourselves as the last resting place for important records that maybe you don't want anymore, or maybe you've stumbled across it somewhere. Allison just took you through the poster and then down to the actual soldier. So how many of us over the years have written for a pension record and paid a few shekels years ago and $75 today, and we're all excited about it? We get it in the mail and it's like 100 pages of really great data, and then that horrible thing happens. Oh my gosh, it's not my ancestor. Oh my gosh, this is a totally different dude. This is not my guy. What do you do with that? Well, most people are like, next, done with that. Well, you've already paid for it. You already have it. Why not give it a final resting place with the Genealogy Center, where we will digitize it and put it online? Now, anyone, any time of day for free can access that information. It's sort of the pay it forward concept. So we have literally thousands of records, some of which you will find other places. A number of them you won't find other places. A great example I like to give is a local guy. He was a really great guy, Glenn Baker, been deceased for a while. We have 6,600 pages of his World War II letters to and from the home front. Those wouldn't exist without this wonderful final resting place. It wouldn't exist for us to use as research items. I hope this isn't too much out of context, Allison, but when we are really trying to find our family stories and we really want to know about the military stories, sometimes we have to look at other individuals' letters and diaries. If our ancestor didn't write home, or the letters weren't saved or preserved, or maybe there's only one person in a regiment that kept the diary, but maybe our ancestor is in that diary. So I think we have to, again, cast the net wide. But our military heritage is our effort to give a final resting place for data. And maybe it doesn't even need to be called a final resting place, because it can be many other places. But this will assure you that if it's here at the Allen County Public Library's digital archive, that it'll be around for many, many, many generations. So thanks for pointing that out, Allison.
Yeah, of course. I just think this is such a fabulous resource. There's so much important information in here. So this is my favorite digital collection of ours. I will come out and say it.
And if I can bore everyone, hopefully not, but if I can take the risk of boring everyone with some details, if you could scroll up to the top of that page, Allison, on just about every, not every, but just about every page on the, if you could stay up top, please, just for a moment. That top search bar is our catalog, which you can search for wars and you can search for veterans' names. But the second search box where it what does it say? Search for free databases. Every time we can possibly OCR any kind of anything, even if it's just the metadata that goes with a handwritten record, we do that. So you can search in this search silo for Baker, Glenn Baker, the unit he was in, or whatever, and you'll get access to everything on our free databases, all 5 million records. So that's one great way to say, gee, Kurt, how do I dive into this site? Use that second search box at the top of almost every Genealogy Center page. And yeah, it looks a little different than Ancestry or Family Search, but it's not, I don't think, unbearable. It's not impossible to see.
So while you guys have been sharing all these wonderful resources, I've been looking through the Q&A.
Thank you.
Trying to see if I can find some ideas or resources for people. The first question that I saw that kind of stuck out to me was someone asking how they can find out what ship that their mother was on during World War II. She was a nurse in the Army. She was second lieutenant stationed in the Philippines. So my question, it would help kind of to narrow things down when you're searching in various databases if you know when she got out.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, if you don't know, you can probably figure it out in some capacity, but it does help. When I was kind of looking online, I didn't read the Navy part, the Army part. My brain read Navy, so I was looking at Navy muster rolls. Nurses should show up in the muster rolls. There are also these World War II Cadet Nursing Corps card files. This wouldn't say necessarily what ship she would have been on, but this could give you actually more information about what her training looked like. So that is information you didn't necessarily ask for, but I actually didn't know that this Cadet Nursing Corps card file thing existed, so I felt the need to share.
Sure.
But Allison or Kurt, do you guys have any other kind of thoughts? I'm going to put the links to these in the chat.
So I cannot express enough how much it has helped my own research to do Google searches, which might sound
Literally
crazy, but people put so much out there, and there's so many people that are doing research on post 20th century military that you might be able to find a collection or something out there that is specific to where she was stationed. So that might be your clue, is to look for maybe nurses or the Army stationed in the Philippines during World War II. You never know what somebody has put online. So, for example, I actually clicked on both of my grandfather's portion of our military heritage because I've been bringing in stuff to be digitized. But one of my grandfathers took a ton of pictures when he was stationed in New Guinea. And oh my goodness, I have no idea who these people are. No idea. But I tried to put the location, I tried to put all of the information in there so somebody else looking for those men could find it. And that's what I'm hoping for, is that anytime I do a search, that somebody else is trying to lead me to their records. And I feel like that is what's happening throughout all of this post 20th century military. So that's what I would begin doing. And it looks like Elizabeth is doing this.
yeah, I'm like doing this as we're talking. Sometimes, so, go ahead, Kurt. I'm sorry.
No, I was just going to say, Allison, good advice for both post and 20th century military research for both of them. So as we've tried to emphasize this evening, build your network. And yeah, Google is a powerful tool. Build your network. So there is a women's memorial at Arlington now. It's not new, but it's relatively new. A couple decades ago when it really was constructed. Contact them for advice. I must admit, I am not very well versed on women in the military, but build the network. There should be records for them in the U.S. Personnel Records Center in St. Louis, so don't forget that. Look for any women's auxiliary that grew up around pilots that flew planes to destinations. I'm having a brain freeze on what they were called. There were WACs and waves, but they weren't allowed
Yes.
to fly missions. So they flew planes all over the country to get them where they needed to be. We all remember the Rosie the Riveter posters from World War II. There were women who were in auxiliary positions in the military, in the Air Force. A good friend of mine, her mother was in the Air Force Auxiliary. And I believe their acronym was WAVES. And again, I'm having a brain freeze on what that abbreviation stands for. But build those networks and then contact those individuals and ask them for tips, sites, other organizations.
My grandmother was a wave during Korea. The funny thing about my grandmother was that when my grandfather passed away and he was in the Navy, they met when they were in the Navy. They are buried in a national cemetery that's in Florida that was being constructed around the time that my grandfather passed away in 2010. And they were asking my grandmother, oh, they assumed that she wanted to share as his spouse his plot. And she said, I don't want to be buried with him. I'm entitled to my own burial plot. It became a whole thing. And that is where she is currently.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, I've been doing a little research on the Philippines and I'm very curious now.
If the nurse was a POW.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was wondering that myself.
Because I found a whole thing on the Angels of Bataan. So if she was a POW, there's a ton written, including oral histories of some of the people that were prisoners.
My grandfather was in the, he was in the Army-ish in Manila in that time frame. And it was after they retook Manila from the Japanese, because a lot of his photographs are of like bombed out buildings, a building that was used to house American POWs.
You mentioning that, Elizabeth, made me think, and I just Googled it real quick. Library of Congress for years now has had the Veterans History Project, and we all wish it would be more robust than it is, and we wish the Library of Congress's website would be way more searchable than it is, and that they would forward face more of these than they do. But all of those caveats, you can find some amazing things, and there are a lot of women that are in the Veterans History Project. So yet another source to check.
Apparently some of these websites play music.
Really?
Yeah, that just scared the bejeebus out of me. I didn't know we were back in 1990. Whew. Anyway, yeah, there's a whole section, like just Google Angels of Bataan and a ton of stuff comes up.
Interesting.
So Kurt, multiple questions have been asked. People have been asking how they might get us information for our military heritage.
So that's awesome that there's that interest. So a multiple number of ways, and feel free to email us if none of what I say makes sense, or if you think, oh, that's cool, and then you forgot it later, that's what I do all the time. So feel free to email us at genealogy@acpl.info. But number one, if you're in the area and you have something you'd like to share with us that you don't want back, drop it off or mail it. And you can mail it media mail, the cheapest rate possible. I think the way the post office currently works, we're in the premium extra price postage season now with Thanksgiving and Christmas. Thank you, US Post Office, but it is what it is. There's also, if you have a scanner and you want to scan it, have the time to scan it, or you already have a digital copy. I don't know how many people know about this free source, but you can transfer for free up to 2 gigabytes of data. That's a lot of data for free using a site called WeTransfer.com. We, transfer as in plus transfer, transfer to the next class, whatever, WeTransfer.com, and put as the recipient, sendee, Genealogy Center at acpl.info. If they need an email address, put your email address in, attach the files, and send it to us. If you have some really important files you don't want to, or you don't think the facility to scan them, if you wanted to send them to us with really clearly written so that we're on the same page you are, this is a loan, want it back. But here's my great whomever's pension. Here's a half a dozen photographs from World War II. Here's a couple letters from the home front to the war front and from the war front to the home front. We'd be happy to scan them, send the originals back to you, and send you a digital asset, a USB that has the digitized images on it. So there really isn't a way that we won't accept it. If you wanted to digitize them yourselves and send us a USB, that would be awesome. You want to send it through WeTransfer, awesome as well. We're just really committed. I know some people might call us a little fanatical, but again, because every generation there exists the possibility, we're just really committed to trying to preserve as much military and military related data as possible. So letters, official records, diaries, musings, you name it, photographs. It's worth it.
So I'm going to preface the next question by saying a couple things. If we do not get to all of your questions, because there are 41 questions in the Q&A box right now, I know we will not get to nearly all of these. So feel free to send us an email. We are always happy to answer all of your questions, to try to help you find the best resources. So definitely reach out to us. If we don't get to your question tonight, we do want to hear from you.
And very quickly, just going off of what Kerr said just a second ago, someone asked, the military files I do have, where should I post these so others can find them? Send them to us, but honestly, lots of copies keeps things safe. Send them to whatever museum, like send digital copies to different museums, send them wherever you guys can find that want a copy online. I mean,
so I fear some of our wonderful participants tonight may get mad at me or us for giving too long of answers, but your response, excellent, Allison, led me to another thought, and that is, what about your family members? And I've heard so many times over my career, no one cares about it. I'm the last one. No one wants my papers. No one wants this. And of late, I have come to think that that's our fault, right? We haven't made it exciting. We haven't made it interesting for our family members. We haven't shared story. I haven't met a person yet who, if someone tells their military story or shares something about a military ancestor in a story fashion, I haven't met a person yet who is not interested, who shuts that conversation down. And I can speak from experience. My 4 sons were just over the moon at their grandfather's military experience. They couldn't hear it enough. They couldn't see it enough. They loved the World War II helmet with the bullet hole clean through it, but yet there wasn't a hole in Grandpa's head. It took them a while to figure that one out, but I mean, make it a story. It is all about story and the power of story. So apologies for that digression, but I'm going to blame you, Allison, for triggering that thought. But you're exactly right. You're exactly right.
I can't say it enough, you guys. This, again, I get geeked out by this. Again, favorite collection, and I love these types of records. So please make sure that you have lots of copies everywhere.
Yeah.
Someone someday will appreciate it. Imagine what would have happened if your ancestors have put tons of copies of things in a lot of different places.
Okay, so I'm going to kind of skip around in the Q&A.
Sure.
Let's see. Oh, this is a good one. So men who joined local militias during the Revolutionary War, were they eligible for pensions?
It depends, but yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thought that was a good, simple one.
Yeah. Great
Yes,
book,
that
the
book.
definitive answer.
Yep.
John Nagels is the author. Or excuse me, James Nagels. James.
Okay. This is a good question. You all have wonderful questions, by the way. This person said that their father lied about their age when they enlisted. How do you search for records for someone without the correct age?
So
It depends on the war, I guess, since this is their father. I mean, that could, I don't know how old you are, Wanda. Not that you have to age yourself, but for Vietnam, Korea,
Yeah.
World War II.
Context is king. So what
Yeah.
else does she know about the individual? And I would use those search criteria to determine, is this the person or not, or those pieces of identification. Age isn't the only thing.
Modern war, is there a DD 214? Yeah, that's another good question. Right. Did this person do you have a discharge record for them?
Right.
Yeah. Thank you, Amy Crow. Yeah. Okay, so let's see what else we got here.
I'm trying to answer questions as fast as I can in here too.
Okay. So there are a couple of people that are asking, like, okay, I know, saying things along the lines of, I know what unit this, my family member was in, but finding more of the records is like kind of hard because the records for that particular person were burned. How do I find out where all they went during things like World War II? Look into unit histories.
Exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
I was about to, I really wanted to bring this up. Look into the history of the unit. Where all did they go? And line that up with the time frame of when did this person serve? When did they go in and when did they get out? And I think that can be applied to pretty much any war. Yeah, Jan Murphy put in the chat a link to unit histories for, this looks like the Army, history.army.mil. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Again, we've said it a few times tonight, cast the net wide because you want to find as much data as possible. Remember the first tenet of the genealogical proof standard, right? Reasonably exhaustive research. So cast the net wide. Unit histories are some of the most underutilized publications, and they can provide, just as you've alluded to, Elizabeth, just amazing numbers of clues and tips, and they give context to your ancestor's life in the Army, in the Air Force, in the Navy. It's pretty amazing, the amount of detail. So unit histories, as well as the letters and diaries of people in your ancestors' unit, brigade, battalion, cast the net wide.
Yeah, and that also would work for, so somebody else was saying that they had an uncle who was a POW during Korea, and he survived. Where could they find records on this? Well, outside of just the records themselves, looking into where was he stationed and what was the experience of POWs in that geographic place during Korea. I think that gives you context, and it sometimes can give you ideas on, maybe where to look for different things, local histories of, POWs from this one town.
So
Yeah.
your advice several times this evening, Elizabeth, is spot on. Think local on both sides. So did your ancestor, did your family member who was a POW serve in a particular camp? A number of them didn't serve in named or designated camps, but a number did. So why not explore that? And then on the home front side, explore in the community. Communities are so proud of their veterans. Is there a scrapbook of POWs from this particular county in the local historical society, in the public library? Do they have little cassette tapes that haven't even been digitized yet of interviews with their town's POWs, their town's veterans? It's amazing. I did a deep dive years ago for a presentation on Saginaw, Michigan, where I spent 6 years in my early childhood days. And the Saginaw Public Library has an amazing collection, like Ancestry, like Find My Past. No, it's about Saginaw and Saginaw County. So not much else outside of that, but oh my goodness, if you want Saginaw and the collar counties, there's no better place. Not even Allen County, not even Family Search, because they have so much local information. And that's repeated thousands of times across the country. Go local, go local.
Someone had asked if Korean and Vietnam records were available, as in like, are they released? Are they sealed?
It's typically too recent for them to be like available for what I call open access to researchers, like on Ancestry or Find My Past or Family Search. Typically, and this is real squishy right now, but typically, if you can find a lot of information for World War II, you're doing pretty well, because there's a lot of that really hasn't been published or made available. So if you're up to Korea and Vietnam, not a whole lot. When you, again, I sound like a broken record, U.S. Military Personnel Records Center, query them, query the National Archives just to see, okay, what can I get to? There are relationship requirements that are more rigorous the more contemporary you come. Like they may want proof that you are a direct descendant, as in daughter, son, period, not grandson, not niece, nephew, but daughter, son. Sometimes though, they don't require proof for that stated relationship. So I'll just leave it to you and your conscience, how you want to manage that situation. But yeah.
Yeah, I know from when my grandmother passed away in August of 2020, and she was, a Korean War veteran. We had her DD-214, but there were literally holes in the paper. The paper was just crumbling. We could read her service number except for one digit, and we needed it for, for the VA, for burial. So when I was, looking up, how do you get a copy of her DD-214, it said that only her children or spouse could request it. Like I could not request it unless I claimed to be her daughter. But my mother got it, so it was not a big deal.
So somebody is asking about book resources. I'm going to share something really quick. So we try to help you guys. This is our website on genealogycenter.org. If you go to our Pathfinders and then go to our subject snapshot guides. So this is a small snapshot into our collection, and then go to military. This is a collection of books that we've just kind of compiled as a starting place, a small snapshot of what we have in our collection.
A sampler.
Yes, exactly. On military. So we have general, and then it's going to go into specific wars. So this is what we recommend. This is your starting point. And then from there on, you can check our catalog for other options, but this is what I would recommend starting with.
So I put a link to that in the chat, but there's also a link to the Military Pathfinder in your handout. It is the second link on the page. So you have all the links to things. Well, many links, not all of them, not nearly all. 4 pages of links.
I was gonna say, did
Okay.
you capture Google on a flash drive this afternoon, Elizabeth? Wow.
No, not quite. Okay, so we're running low on time. So I'm gonna just reiterate again. If you have a question that you really need help with, or if you just want to say hello to us, that works too. Feel free to send us an email at genealogy@acpl.info. I'm gonna put that in the chat, but I see a couple of requests for a link to the handout again. Yeah, so feel free to reach out to us with more questions since we are winding down for the evening. But do you, Kurt or Allison, do y'all have anything to add?
I just want to thank people for their willingness to share in the chat. Crowdsourcing is really wonderful. Remember the basics, be thorough. There is so much out there. It's not neatly packaged with a bow and a ribbon that say, here's your military records. Be tenacious. There's fun and excitement in being tenacious, and you'll find a lot of information. And use those boring tools that don't whistle and dance and sing at you, like WorldCat and Nutmuck, just to see what might be out there. You'll be amazed. And as a number of us have said all evening, good searches on Google, even bad searches on Google, can net a lot of information. And Family Search is really a powerful research assistant for all of us. The research wiki.
And we really appreciate your time and willingness to join us on another Thursday evening program. And again, we truly, truly thank any of the veterans in our audience this evening for your service. Today's your day, and we want to acknowledge you. Thank you.
I just echoing everything that Kurt and Allison just said, and thank you all, and I hope you all have a great evening. And like I said, if you have more questions, send us an email. We are always happy to help.
Thank you all. Good night.